never make it this far. They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic gotta say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like.
Welcome back to Stuck in My Thoughts. It's the place you want to be to hear a one-of-a-kind POV. We've been gone for 2 weeks covering wrestlers from the WWE, but we're back for CFB Week 5. Know that was a lot of rhymes, but we're starting out with our Thursday slate. Virginia upsets Florida State 46-38 in 2 overtimes. UVA was not on the map. I thought Florida State was going to win this one. Florida State has been cruising so far this season. Getting ranked, took down Alabama early, coming off that 2-10 season last year, and they hit a bump in the road, if I do say so myself. Up there against Virginia, went down early, 14-0, but Florida State was able to bounce back, 21-14, make the comeback. Castellanos was able to get things rolling. Mike Norvell's offense was slow. Gus Malzahn finally got things rolling, but it was a hostile environment up there. I don't know exactly where Virginia is located. Kind of blanking on the city right now. It'll come to me later. But they gave Florida State their best punch all game. Finally, towards the end, Castellanos hit Randy Pittman on 4th and goal. 36 seconds left in the game. Was able to send it to overtime. And that's where things got a little dicey. In overtime, Florida State's Deuce Robinson bobbled touchdown from the 2-yard line all the way to the back of the end zone. Ultimately, it was called incomplete. 50-50. I personally think it was incomplete. He didn't have full possession. The referees ultimately decided that it was incomplete. And Virginia ultimately goes on to win the game. Castellano throws a deep ball, prayer-style throw. Gets intercepted. I hope that brother is okay, his receiver. Don't know his name, but I hope he's okay because immediately Virginia's fans stormed the field. Great environment, great ACC game, and Florida State goes down. They say that they weren't looking too far ahead to Miami. It was a thing, not a lack of preparation, but a lack of execution. And when you have a target on your back early in the season, like FSU has, being able to put on a show, take down an Alabama team early, continue to show that last year. This is a new season, new team, new breath of life. You got to be able to execute in these games, especially on the road in the ACC. All games are tough in college football. These are no cakewalk. These are some of the best players in the entire country. And you can't sleep. You have to execute. And ultimately, that's what cost FSU this game. Looking at UVA's Chandler Morris, he went 26 of 35, 229 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But they were able to pick up the win. And Florida State has to look ahead to Miami. They have a great in-state opponent coming up with Carson Beck leading the helm there. Mario Cristobal. The Canes are rolling right now. But hopefully for Florida State and the Florida State fan base, they can get things rolling and be able to bounce back in a major way because that would be a huge win and keep those playoff hopes alive. And I know I stumbled a little bit saying SEC instead of the ACC, but we're going to get back to the SEC. Tennessee outlasts Mississippi State on the road in overtime, 41-34. I was locked in on this game. Repping Peyton Manning right now. I don't have a Tennessee jersey, so got to go with the next best thing, and that's the Colts. Shout out to you Tennessee fans, those Vols. Shout out to my boy Tyke Tabor. He's probably the biggest Tennessee fan that I know. Mississippi State coming into this game 4-0 for the first time since the Dak Prescott era back in 2014. Jeff Lebby has got this team rolling, got this fan base believing, and big things are happening down there in Stark Vegas. You've already got a big win on the season so far against Arizona State. Things are headed in the right direction. And they've got Coach Heupel and the Tennessee Volunteers coming into town. And they had a lead in that fourth quarter. Tennessee storms back, goes to overtime, and ultimately they outlast the Bulldogs. And for Mississippi State, on paper, this is their 13th straight SEC loss. But it's safe to say Mississippi State is a new team. They're headed in a new direction. And I think that you can put stock on this team. Like I said, Jeff Lebby's got them headed in the right direction. Took some years to get things rolling. The unfortunate passing of Coach Leach, the departure of their previous coach, who had a tenure that I think all Mississippi State fans want to forget. And now Coach Lebby, he's got things rolling. Got the players in a system where they're believing. They're going forward, and I'm excited to see what they have the rest of the way. I think it's too early to count them boys out. But for Tennessee, I think their defense made the difference. 2 touchdowns on the day, and 3 phases of the game are going to make the difference. You got the offense, you got defense, you got special teams, and I think they won this game on defense. In the first quarter, they had a pick 6, and in the fourth quarter, you got the scoop and score, leads to a touchdown. Big difference maker, ultimately takes the lead there. I want to give a special shout out to a young cat, young freshman, got a chance to meet this young man and his family in Nashville during the On3 Elite series that was there. David Sanders was challenged to step up in a major way in the fourth quarter when Jesse Perry went down, and you could see his teammates in the huddle rallying around him, giving him that confidence. He's a true freshman coming into a hostile game on the road. This is why he came to Tennessee. These are the moments that you live for. And he stepped up to the plate. You could definitely tell the jitters were there. Had a little false start, but was able to bounce back in a major way and held his own. So big shout out to David Sanders, and shout out to the Tennessee offense for putting that confidence in him. You could tell he was ready to go. Those guys believed in him. His coaching staff believed in him. That's why he was in the game. And his team was able to come away with a win in a big-time, overtime SEC win. Great environment. And at the end of the day, it's all about Heupel and Tennessee finding a way by any means necessary. This wasn't the cleanest game by them. I'm sure for all the Tennessee fan base, they would have liked a more stretched-out game. Not as tight of a score, but they were able to find a way. And in the SEC, and we're talking about going into postseason to the playoffs, that's what you got to do. You got to win by any means necessary. Find a way, no matter if things are clicking the way you want them or they're not. You got to come out with a victory. Moving over to the Big 12, and my guy, Coach Prime, going out to Boulder, Colorado. BYU was their opponent, and BYU was able to pick up the win 24-21 on the road. And it's not even a thing about BYU, mad respect for that team, the coach, the fan base. But in this case, it's all about Colorado. So far, they're 2-3 on the season, 0-2 in Big 12 play. And it's all about winning and finishing, or lack thereof, these close games. In this conference and in this league, with the aspiration that Coach Prime and this Colorado Buffalo fan base has, you have to win in the close games. They lost to number 17 Georgia Tech 27-20 in the first game of the season at home. Very winnable game that they let go. There were no shows against Houston. No excuse. They were able to bounce back and take care of that. And then in this game, you lose by 3. From the outside looking in, watching this game late night, staying up to see this performance, Caden Salter, transfer from Liberty, started out the season. They went through the quarterback chain, trying out the 5-star freshman and Juju Lewis, going down to Ryan Staub, third-string quarterback who's been a part of the team for a while. Ultimately, they come back to Caden Salter. Caden Salter has to become a leader. He's a great quarterback. Obviously, he's there for a reason. He's talented. Coach Prime's not getting nobody sorry. We know that. But I saw, from my lens, too much negative body language. From him, from the receivers, him and Omarion Miller are not on the same page. It just doesn't seem like he has the leadership right now. And for quarterbacks, everybody knows you have to win the locker room first. Winning the locker room and being able to put on performance go hand in hand. Too much negative body language. When things don't go well, everybody looks to the quarterback first. The quarterback has to keep an even, steady keel. This is a drastic difference, but somebody like a Jalen Hurts, I feel like, does it the best. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. You have to stay steady. And I think that is the level that he has to learn how to get to. I think Shedeur Sanders did a great job, even though he was running for his life during his time at Colorado because the O-line was non-existent. Caden Salter has to learn to embody that and embrace that. You're going to be the helm at Colorado. You're going to be QB1. All eyes are on you guys. They're staying up late to see what you guys are going to do. You have to get that level of maturity, I guess is the way you can say it. That level of maturity, that level of leadership, I think will go a long way because you could tell towards the end of that game in the crunch time and the biggest moments, they weren't on the same page. Costly penalties, costly holds that negated a 56-yard run by Caden Salter, miscues, errant throws on the run leads to an interception to ultimately seal the game. But for Colorado, these are the games that you have to win. These are games you can win and you must win. These close games, you have to find a way to finish. If there's any message that Coach Prime is probably saying to his team, to his coaching staff going forward, it's one or two plays that make the difference in the game, especially in the close ones. And these are games that you could have won. Like I mentioned, Georgia Tech, no shows at Houston. But BYU has 2 games on the road that have been decided by a total of 10 points. 1 or 2 plays here, that's the difference in 2 and 3 in, what's my math? 4 and 1? Yeah. And so I think for Colorado, the biggest message going forward is finishing from quarter 1 to quarter 4. And then even in the overtime when you got to do it. And so I hope that Colorado, Coach Prime and his team can get the things rolling and continue to stay on the trajectory that is on. Because since he's gotten to Colorado, he's changed the culture, a complete 180. They're headed in the right direction. But they're going to have to clean up a few things in order to get at the same standard and success level that Coach Prime has preached, that he's met. But in order to continue that standard, continue to meeting it, they're going to have to learn how to finish. Moving on to the no conference team, and the team who is probably the best 2-loss team in the country right now, without a question. Notre Dame goes into Fayetteville and murks Arkansas 56-13, and it was all led by Jeremiyah Love, who is the modern day Reggie Bush. There is no doubt about it. 4 touchdowns in the first half. That brother was rolling on that field. And like I said, despite Notre Dame having 2 losses, they show that they're still them. They're still them boys, and they still have their playoff hopes fully alive, in my opinion, especially if they can continue to put on performances like that week in and week out, fully dominating in every phase of the game. Marcus Freeman is leading this team in a tremendous way. It's no question, no surprise that these guys were just in the national championship a year ago. They've lost some really close games to a great Miami team, a really solid Texas A&M team, and I think they have everything still in front of them despite the 2 losses so far. And for the flip side, in Arkansas, they not only lost the game, but they lost their coach. Sam Pittman was fired today as head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. In his tenure, going 32-34, 3 bowl wins, and he's out. And Bobby Petrino, a familiar face, is back as the interim head coach right now for the Razorbacks. And honestly, it sucks for the Razorback fan base because they had everything in front of them this season. We heard early talks about they had the potential, but potential is only potential when you don't meet it. It's only a good saying, something good to talk about. But if you don't execute, if you don't live up to that potential, you're nothing but a what if, and you're nothing but out of a job. And hate it for Sam Pittman, great guy, obviously cared about his players. He did it, I believe, the right way. But in this profession, you're held to a high standard in the SEC. And if you don't meet that standard, if you don't hit those requirements, if you don't do your job, you find yourself out of a job. And so Arkansas will be looking for a full-time head coach moving forward. This team next is probably going to be looking for one as well if they don't get things rolling, and that's the Auburn Tigers. If you know me, you know I'm privy to this team during my time as an athlete at the university. But Auburn has to find, and I don't know if they have to send out a SWAT team to look for them, call the Neighborhood Watch, the Salvation Army, but they got to go find their offense because right now they're in witness protection. Auburn could not do a thing on offense, and it was hard to watch. Nobody coming into the season with all the talent that they have on the team, all the money that they put towards getting these offensive weapons, expected them to be able to go out there and look the exact same as they did a year ago. Everybody wanted to blame Peyton Thorne a year ago. Everybody wanted to say it was his fault. But honestly, it always goes back to the coaches. We got Mr. Arnold out there at quarterback, who I don't know who talked to Jackson Arnold, but he's got to find his legs again because at Baylor, he was gapping them. If he didn't have his men open down the field, he took maybe 3-4 seconds and he was gone. Jackson Arnold, if you hear this, you got to use your feet, my brother. You only got a certain amount of time. No line, y'all got to get better as well. You got to give them more time to be able to throw because you have too many weapons not to be able to move the ball down the field and move the ball down the field consistently. Nobody could convert on third down. It was just horrible. I could go on and on all day about how bad it looked, but I really would just want to talk about the last two possessions. You're down 16-10. Touchdown wins the game. You have two possessions within the final minutes. We have a 3-and-out, and then we have a turnover on downs. In the last possession, 3rd and 1, there is a errant throw, and none of the receivers nor the quarterback was on the same page. And that goes back to the coaching because what is the plan for this point in the game? There has to be some type of plan and strategy for these moments because in the SEC, you're more than likely going to have these crunch time moments, 2-minute offense, some type of strategy in order to achieve the victory. But there was no plan. You got receivers throwing their hands up, looking confused, looking to the sideline. You got Jackson Arnold throwing the ball in the dirt because he thought the receiver was going to do this, thought the receiver was going to do that. But to his right, we got Damari Austin, who I know can get a yard. Why are we not running the ball? Get the first down, reset, and then continue to move the ball down the field. We also have a timeout. So on 3rd and 1, you don't run the ball. Cool. 4th and 1, we go shotgun, take a drop step, end up taking a sack, turnover on downs. Again, you don't run the ball and get a yard. You can spit a yard. All you got to do is lay over, you can get the 4th and 1, but that's not the case. Looks like so much disorganization. I said it in my first recap of the Stuck in My Thoughts college football series for the Auburn fans that it was early. Not to get too worked up and not to say that Auburn was going to the playoffs too early. It was too soon, and I called it right because it is too soon. Last week, you can say that Auburn got finessed. They did get finessed. SEC officials came out and said that all those calls should have been called back. Auburn should have beat Oklahoma. Yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but we didn't. We go out on the road to College Station, and you had the game. Texas A&M, they didn't play their best game. Auburn played a horrible game offensively, and you still had a chance to win it. 2 possessions, not 1, but 2 possessions in the final minutes. Now, I've done a lot of talking about how Auburn's offense was absolutely horrendous. They need a reality check. Hugh Freeze really needs to lock in because he might be reaching unemployment in here in a second. But Auburn's defense is the best in the SEC, and you can argue with whoever you like because they were holding it down. The defense, especially the run defense, containing a dynamic running quarterback like Marcel Reed, definitely has the best quarterback contained in the country. They were on one, locked in from start to finish. And for polar opposites in the offensive side and the defensive side, you hate to see that because they're putting it all on the line, giving the offense opportunity after opportunity to be able to execute. And only having one side execute is not going to be effective going forward, because Auburn as well has a gauntlet of a schedule. Georgia in 2 weeks is Cam Newton's jersey retirement. Don't know why they picked that game, but I'm going to tell you like this. If you want to be able to honor somebody like Cam Newton, who's done tremendous things for the university, you better go out there and play. And give it your all. And not just give it your all, but get a win. Because Georgia just came off of a loss. They're out for blood. They're not coming to Jordan-Hare to play around. They're coming out there to try to beat us by 40. And if you don't want to beat by 40, you got to find an offense. So that's all I'll say on that. Shout out to my boy DJ, defensive coordinator at Auburn, because you held it down, my boy, and you might be the interim head coach if you don't get it together. And that's just the way it is. You got to be able to execute your job at a high level. So we shall see what the Tigers do going forward. Like I said, they come back against them Bulldogs at home in 2 weeks. I'll probably be in attendance for that. And so hopefully in that 2-week span, the offense will come out of witness protection and be on that field. So we'll see. And I just feel like I'm on a run of coaches who are great coaches historically, I guess, but just don't get it done in the big moments. It's all about the big moments. Nobody cares about the cupcake games. We want to see what you can do against the big boys. And for James Franklin and Penn State, it has not been successful. He goes currently after this past weekend 4-21 against AP top 10 opponents. They lost to Oregon at home, 30-24 in overtime. Started out the game horrible. I mean, you got College Game Day there. All the hype is around. It's a whiteout up there at Penn State, and they're down 17-3 early. Dan Lannon and his team is smoking through them. But Drew Aller willed Penn State back. They were able to get things in motion. There was some early boos in the home crowd. I heard some fire Franklins, but they willed themselves back, was able to get back into the game. And ultimately, Dan Lannon and Oregon were able to get the dub overtime on the road. Just a tremendous performance. Dan Lannon is a coach that you want to play for. He's the type of coach that's going to get the best out of his players. He's going to be able to just push them to the max. If you hear the pregame speeches, you hear the halftime speeches, the postgame speeches, these are the people and the coaches that you want to play for, the people that's going to get the best out of you, to maximize your potential. We used that word potential earlier. Who's going to be able to get the best out of you? And that's a Dan Lanning. He's one of the coaches who have been under the Saban umbrella, who's been able to blossom in his own manner. Would love to sit down with him one day, but he's tremendous, and he's got a quarterback in Dante Moore who's balling. And them Ducks, man, they're not playing around. I know they had a sour taste in their mouth from the way that they ended the season last year in the Rose Bowl, but they're back. They're looking good. And then you look at the Penn State, you have to pose the question, at what point is enough, Coach Franklin, and it's time at Penn State? Coach Franklin, tremendous coach, always has them highly ranked. It's just when they face the other highly ranked, they just don't get it done. And that ultimately comes down to coaching. Year in and year out, you have great players. You're able to get them in the point that they need to be. But when you reach that point, you have to execute to get over the hump. And so for the Penn State fans out there, I'll throw this question to you. When is enough for James Franklin and his time at Penn State? Can anybody else get it done? Do we need to give Coach Franklin more time? Or what needs to be done for this Penn State team to break through that adversity? Speaking of break, this is the last point of this Stuck in My Thoughts college football week 5 thoughts recap. Bama breaks UGA's streak of 33 wins at home and a final score of 24-21. Coming into this game, I had to go with the home team. Thought Georgia had set themselves up in the right manner to be able to win this game. Thought it was going to be close. I thought it was going to be like a 24-21 Georgia's way. But Kalen DeBoer, who I said at the beginning of the season, phenomenal coach, just didn't know if he had the locker room really all bought in. He outcoached Kirby Smart. And that is tough to say, but he's currently 2-0 against Kirby in his 2 years there. Remember the tremendous game down there in Tuscaloosa. But they go on the road to Athens, and they came out the gate swinging. Defense was on fire. Offense was executing. Ryan Williams, he still got to find those hands, but he was playing a little bit better. But Bama was active, and they played to that standard. I talked about the standard that Saban set all the way back from the beginning of his tenure to the end. Bama had to find that, and they did. When you have a steady Ty Simpson matched up with some reliable receivers, I believe they had 8 different guys catch the ball, including Caden Proctor on a screen pass, who I don't know if you'd ever tackle him. That dude's 6'7", 350 plus, moving down the sideline, almost scored a touchdown, but that's lethal Bama. That's what this new era of Alabama has to be. The Kalen DeBoer system, it works. It's proven to work. Look at his time in Washington. He's a successful quarterback. He is a successful coach who is showing his quarterback can have success. Everybody was down on Ty Simpson in the Florida State game. While they did not show up to play, I think that was more of a effort issue. I don't necessarily think it was a schematic issue. I just don't think those guys are ready to play. And that Florida State loss looks worse now that they lost to Virginia, but this team as a whole looks better now that they beat Georgia on the road and in that fashion. So I think going forward, Bama has put themselves back in the national spotlight as far as being contenders, as far as being somebody or a team that people have more respect for now. But they got a tough matchup coming up this week. College game day is going to Tuscaloosa, and they're going against an undefeated Vanderbilt team. And they know all about Vandy. They lost last year at Vandy. Diego Pavia has become the menace, the modern-day Manziel. And for those Bama fans, you know how Manziel treated y'all back in the day. But that's going to be a big one. Honestly, Vanderbilt might even be a tougher matchup than Georgia was. I think schematically, I think X's and O's wise, I think the system that DeBoer had, he just outcoached Kirby. I don't think Kirby had an answer. There was some miscues, in my opinion, from Kirby as well. You got to go for it in some of those situations. I think ultimately cost them the game. But Kirby's he has a 1-7 record, I believe, against Bama, and as much success as he's had, back-to-back national championships, really would have been 3 if they put him in that playoff. I was talking to somebody about that today. But it's just looking like UGA and Kirby's always going to be Bama's little brother. And that's crazy. Even with Saban gone, like I said, DeBoer is 2-0 against Kirby. They just don't have an answer, and they got to find that answer. Thought about James Franklin being able to get it done against the big teams in the big moments. Kirby's got to get it done against Bama in the big moments. They beat Bama once in that national championship, but Bama was missing 2 receivers, 2 DBs. So a little asterisk there. But UGA is going to be fine ultimately. I was surprised. I got to tip my hat off to Bama because they showed up and showed out. I didn't know what Bama we were going to get, but I think this is the one that people were expecting this preseason. And they were able to show up and show out. And I'm still tripping off the Caden Proctor screen because I did not see that coming. That's a big dude running down there, 6'7", 350 plus to be able to take a screen pass. But ultimately, this is a great week of college football. I'm excited. I know we've been gone for a minute. Like I said, we've been sitting down with some great wrestlers in the WWE, Adriana Rizzo, Big E. Make sure you go check out those if you tapped into WWE. But this is the college football week recap, college football week 5 recap. All of our thoughts. We're probably gonna be going down to Tuscaloosa, checking out the game day set. Like I said, Vandy versus Bama should be a good one. 2:30 kickoff. A lot of great college football ahead. Arkansas going to be looking for a new coach. We'll see if Auburn can find an offense in a couple weeks. Jeremiyah Love, modern-day Reggie Bush, would love to see where he is stacking up in those early Heisman votes and rankings. FSU still have a great path to the playoffs ahead. Tennessee continues to stay undefeated. Inside of Boulder, primetime has got to learn how to find that clutch gene and finish those games. Is James Franklin time and Penn State up? How will UGA bounce back against Auburn? And Bama, have they been back into the dynasty? And have they continued to meet the standard? Can they meet the standard as they go forward within the college football season? This has been the Week 5 Stuck in My Thoughts college football recap. Make sure you guys go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. It's a family. It's a community. We'll see you guys for the next episode. We out.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah.